thinking about ways I can make money. Um, Another thing that I was thinking about is how to heat up a swimming pool in an affordable way, an affordable method, upon other things. So it made me think about other things as well. Now, I was thinking about maybe getting a candle, like a oil candle, an oil an oil candle, and heating something up, like a gallon of water. That will work over time, but it will still cost money. Okay. I thought about, and I'm going somewhere with this. So I also thought about burning wood and getting a huge pan and warming up the water that way. But then I started thinking about how to perfect that, even that, how to perfect even that. So I thought about another invention, which I won't even get to or get into. But basically, I thought about how I can place the candle. Well, I am describing it just briefly, so just so I won't forget. So I thought about a way I can place the candle in the submerged into the water with four holes, air pockets, ventilation system at the base, so fresh oxygen can flow into it, and four additional ventilation systems where the heat will rise up and get dispensed into the atmosphere. So I also thought about the chimneys for this invention, and I thought about it like a zigzag pattern to maximize and to extract the most heat possible to heat up a swimming pool affordably. And then I started thinking about a combustible engine. Something that you'll see in every single vehicle, unless it's an electrical vehicle or other types of vehicles. But I'm talking about a combustible engine. Um, because I know there's a lot of engines out there. Okay, there's a lot of inventions, but the one that I'm describing and I'm getting at is engines like in vehicles. Now, we humans can add, we can fuel it up. We could spend like $300 to travel from Los Angeles to the top of California. So to travel, I don't even know how many miles that is, but to travel 8 hours. So just think about traveling eight hours on the freeway, going 65 miles per hour. that requires at least $300. But the difference is that the engine, it has the propeller in the front and it has the ventilation opening, so cool air can go in there and it cools down the engine. Now, if we could create an engine like that, a combustible engine that's basically powered with gas, and we put it into the water, so but with ventilation systems and exhaust ventilation for the fumes to come out of it, then the heat that is produced can technically warm up a swimming pool, more than probably an electric grid system, a grid. So, but I'm not sure. I'm not certain about that. And then also thinking about the maintenance. So, those two things will have to be taken into consideration as well. After, so you have to be educated in both respects to be able to come up with the solution to the problem. And to determine which one will cost less to warm up a swimming pool. Okay. Why am I thinking about that? Because I want to go swimming and I can't, because it costs a lot of money to warm the swimming pool up. And not just that, but then the swimming pool, even if I do spend $100, is going to get cold again. So I was thinking about a way to collect the sun's heat during the day. But there's like I forget what it's called exactly, but it's an invention. Basically, there's like a magnifying glass, and the focal point of the sun through the magnifying glass can heat and power like an engine, or possibly warm up water. Especially because they could heat up stone, like a brick, and it could only heat it up, and it will only get heated up to a certain temperature, and that heat, the excess heat, can be transmitted to the bottom into the swimming pool, and at the very top there will be a lake of molten lava. Because that's how powerful that invention is. But anyways, I also thought of, so those are ways that we can heat up our swimming pools, but I also thought about gasoline. Okay, now this is very interesting because I believe personally that we are, in a way, wasting gasoline. And I believe that we can optimize that by heating up the gasoline, because when gasoline is heated up, it can be heated up electronically, with electricity. Once it gets heated up, it creates a gas. And don't get that mixed up with the gasoline. It creates a natural gas, vapor gas, like a fart. Or that's flammable, highly flammable. So I noticed that in my gas tank, a handheld gas tank. I used it for my pressure washer. I used it a few times on my, the lawnmower, for the weed whacker. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Excuse me. So, a handheld gas tank. And I thought about placing a balloon over the lid where, you open it. Because if it gets heated up with the sun, because I remember it was like 100 something degrees outside, and those gas tanks were bloated. So I could just imagine how much gas vapors were coming out of that thing. And I believe that if that was left there, like in the middle of the desert, without anyone bothering it, I believe just with the heat, the gasoline will eventually evaporate entirely. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. We can technically, instead of ejecting pure concentrated gasoline into the injectors, into the combustible engine, and then there's a spark plug that makes it combust into, it just creates gas. No, it creates pressure. That pressure then causes the pistons to move rapidly up and down, which gives it the force, the power to propel the vehicle forward. And this is just with my limited understanding and knowledge of how a combustible engine works and operates. So it's like very limited knowledge. I have never studied entirely the combustible engine. but I have a general idea of how it works. So, if what I'm saying is true, my conclusion is true, if it's true, then technically we would have to heat up the gasoline without getting it so hot where it will explode like a bomb. Not only that, but there would have to be some form of temperature regulators or regulator when not in use, because I don't think anyone has ever attempted to do what I'm talking about. And I mean, what I'm saying, what I'm describing can technically cause the vehicle to be a bomb. If, like in a science laboratory, not obviously something like that is not going to be released to the public and society, So it's all education here. So I'm like experimenting here mentally, with you guys, whoever's watching this. So it would have to be tested, obviously, and perfecting that. I believe if we perfect it, we can get more miles per the gallon. Period. And that is like my conclusion. And I also immediately started thinking about how natural gas that comes in from the city that provides us with energy to keep our houses warm and to also heat up our food and to, the stoves to cook with, and also the oven, it requires gas. So I was thinking about heating up the gasoline idea. And going back to what I was talking about, if that works, if heating up the gasoline can create vapor gas, natural gas, um, gas, fumes. I'm trying not to confuse myself, but it's common sense. So if it can create fumes, gas fumes, that can actually be used, because once it gets burnt, then it shouldn't be a hazard even inside of a home. It's just like gas in the stove. If it's left on, obviously it's going to hurt people, and get people sick and even kill people accidentally. right? But I started thinking, why doesn't the flame go like into the stove pipes where the gas is coming from? And why doesn't it cause an explosion? So I really don't understand how a stove works. Or even like even the Blue Rhino, I could see it. The word doesn't want to come to me. It starts with a P, I believe. Anyways, people use it to like, it's gas in a tank, and they insert a bunch of gas in it, pressurized gas, or they fill it to its maximum capacity without it exploding, obviously. And then that can be used to warm up, like really warm up a certain area. My mom and my dad have one. My brother bought it a long time ago, but we never use it no more. Mainly because we don't want to go buy that stuff. But it basically heats up the metal, and that heat energy gets emitted down to the surrounding area. So even in a cold night, we can be outside and be warm by that. There's also fireplaces that are powered with these tanks. And there's also barbecue pits, barbecue inventions, and it uses that Blue Rhino stuff. I really forget what it's called. But anyways, oh, and basically that's what a stove is. Going back to the stove. So I don't know how that gas goes out, and there's a spark plug that basically creates that sparks up the gas, and then it creates an even flame. But what is preventing that flame from like going into it? Is it because heat in the flame, they surface to the top and the gas is coming from the bottom? Is that how it works? Anyway, I have to do more research regarding that myself personally, so I could better understand what I'm trying to describe, and so I could understand it in case this type of stuff can be perfected. Because the Blue Rhino tank to be refilled costs about $7 to $10. But what if we can get a gallon of gasoline and stretch that for a much longer time? Then we would be getting somewhere. We would be making a revolutionary step forwards in aviation, I think it's called. But anyway, my main thing is space exploration. Okay? So I'm thinking maybe they already thought about this with the jets. You know? Because there's jets out there. And I mean, they mastered it. I mean, the science of that for a jet. But I don't know. I really don't. I don't even know how a jet is fueled. But if just the gas can create thrust, then we can definitely use that probably in space. But I heard that it requires oxygen for a jet to travel in space, but I could be wrong. Because I was watching these YouTube videos about SpaceX and SpaceX's rockets, and they had a tank for gasoline, the jet, the rocket fuel. I mean, so it's the rocket fuel, and then I noticed that there was also an oxygen tank. So, I mean, I don't know how that works, but you know, once an aircraft, spaceship is in space, you know, time is of the essence, but at the same time, it's not. So, especially with our limited knowledge of certain things at the moment, our elementary knowledge of space exploration and all that, I would personally recommend, if this works, to experiment further and not pushing these objects, especially if humans are in it, to its maximum, like I don't even know the word. I was going to say potential, but that doesn't even make sense. But like, not to push the machine too much where it can cause problems. I mean, unless we're experimenting here on Earth and everyone knows that it's just an experiment to evaluate and to gather new data and stuff like that. Um, but you know, that's all I really wanted to share for the moment. Because we have to remember that everything we do impacts us either negatively or positively. And my aim, my mission is for innovation, for us to grow and learn and to teach others the same type of mindset. So that we can impact the future generations. And I believe that this is more possible now more than ever just because of AI, the computers, and it processing our information. And I even heard, like, futuristically, that the computers, AI, will be able to self code and self theorize, possibly even redesign things, and just about everything that a human brain can do. And it's practically an immortal creation, an immortal brain that will never stop from learning. So it's like God in a sense. So I'm just, in a sense, I'm curious to see how, the direction that AI points us and directs us and refocuses all of our attention to the way that AI thinks, the internet thinks, because it's going to be something beautiful. It's going to be something spectacular. Not spectacular, but anyways, um I don't really understand a lot about this life. I'm still learning myself, but I just hope that all of us will take our job seriously, and that we all remember that God ultimately loves us, because the Bible says he's not against us, he is for us. And we have to remember that we don't fight against flesh and blood, we fight against spiritual forces. Going back to the beginning of, sort of like the beginning of this video. Okay. Because, we're smart people. We can think about a lot of things. But sometimes we can't think of every single possibility. Like a vehicle traveling so fast and then coming to a complete stop. Eventually we thought about airbags and all the other implementations that were added in your vehicle as an example. So, yeah, like whoever created the vehicle, the mobile vehicle, and all that, they were smart people. But we have to remember we're just humans, and we will only look at the big picture from a limited, from a small perspective, a small